Actors, you might have heard the phrase acting is reacting, but what does that really mean and how do we use that as characters? How do we make it so we feel and act and are so alive even when it's not our line? Today in the Stanislavski Acting Series, we are going to talk about inner monologue. Drama teachers, feel free to send this directly to your students as a ready-to-go mini lesson. Be sure to subscribe so you're getting the full series of videos as well as my upcoming audition tips and character exercises. Today has two main related parts for the Stanislavski Acting Method series, adaptation and inner monologue. What is adaptation? Adaptation is where, as an actor, instead of just knowing what's coming in the script, you are actually listening to others on stage and reacting based on what the other person is doing. You're adapting, and if they try a tactic in a different way than they did the last time you did the scene, you are reacting and pivoting and allowing the scene to feel alive, even if the reality as an actor is you do know what's coming next. And then the inner monologue is what your character is thinking. Even when the character is silent and it's someone else's line, or there's no lines maybe going on the stage, your character is thinking and responding to the situation, just as we do in real life. Anytime there's a conversation in the back and forth, your brain is filling in ideas and information and deciding how to respond. We want to connect and think about how the character's thoughts and responses are going to affect our choices as an actor. The hope is that the audience can get a sense of what the character is thinking, even if the character is not saying a line or not directly saying that thought. In this one, I'm going to use an example from Romeo and Juliet, the balcony scene. I keep going back and forth between Beauty and the Beast and Romeo and Juliet for these videos. We're going back to Romeo and Juliet. So in that scene, Juliet has her long soliloquy. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou? Romeo. It's a very famous monologue, right? But the whole time, Romeo is listening to the monologue. And a lot of the time, the audience is probably going to be watching him. He's listening, he hears his name. He's so happy he hears his name. Maybe she actually loves him too. Maybe this love is real, right? And so, if you are the actor playing Romeo, you need to know what is the actual thought in Romeo's mind, step by step, throughout that scene. Every time she says something, and then when she's going back and forth about the name, and does it matter that he's a Montague? It shouldn't matter. Rosebud or any other name would smell as sweet. So maybe when she first brings up the feud, he goes, oh no, she's gonna say she doesn't want to be with me because of the family feud. But then she talks herself out of that and she says, it doesn't matter what his name is. And he's like, oh yay, right? So all of that is Romeo reacting and thinking through and hoping that Juliet will come to the conclusion that she should indeed be with him as much as he wants to be with her. Before we get into the exercise for adaptation and inner monologue, I wanted to tell you about my free audition materials guide. It is 8 pieces that will help you with basically any theater audition and just a guide for finding those. Drama teachers, I also have a free drama classroom toolkit linked below, so be sure to check those out. All right, so for our exercise that will help you react as a character, choose a scene, but this time choose a scene where you have a good chunk of time that you're not talking. So if it's a scene back and forth, maybe if there's a scene where someone else in the scene has a monologue and your character is listening to this monologue, that would be a good one to choose for this exercise. So read through the scene and get out your handy notebook, and you are going to write an inner monologue for that silent section. So where you're not talking, you're writing down, looking at what is being said in the script or the stage directions and what's being done in the script, and you're writing down a whole monologue for what the character is going through throughout this time that this character is not talking. And then what you want to do is, with a scene partner, actually perform the scene. If you are doing this at home, just find someone at home who can read the other person's lines in the scene so that you can practice this emotional response. If you're in a classroom setting, you can do this in pairs and maybe switch off scenes where one person is talking for longer and then switch to another scene where the other person is talking for longer. So you can both practice this idea of the adaptation and inner monologue. After you have done this activity, go back and really reflect on what changes were made from the initial reading of the scene to how you actually performed it based on what you identified as the thoughts that the character are going through. Using this thought tracking method can also be really helpful for auditions when you're reading sides, because I know that can be a really challenging thing, is like, oh, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to respond when it's someone else's line? But that is absolutely part of the audition. As a director myself, I look at what other people are doing and are they really reacting and responding and playing off each other during those readings. So practicing this before going into an audition can be a great way to prepare yourself for those kinds of scene readings. Adaptation and inner monologue give your performance even more depth, and it allows the character to show without directly telling. This is something that you can keep working on as you're getting more and more advanced as an actor. And drama teachers encourage your students to always go back and take this step to identify their inner monologue. Happy acting and break a leg.